What's up guys, this episode we're going to be talking about using Uppy to upload files to ActiveStorage in our Rails app. Now Uppy provides an interface to upload files, and they have this thing called the dashboard, which you can embed or have as a modal in your site that looks like this. It allows you to drag and drop files, paste files in, and grab files from third-party services like Dropbox. So it's really handy as a user to be able to go find my files no matter where they're stored at. And to connect this to ActiveStorage, we're going to use a library that I've forked from the original author called Uppy ActiveStorage Upload. And I made a few enhancements to it and improved the docs a little bit so that it's a lot easier to use with Rails 6 and uses all of the standard Rails 6 dependencies. Because this was originally created in Rails 5.2, so things have changed a little bit since then. So let's dive into building an example. I have a Rails app here that's a brand new Rails app, and it has Webpacker installed because it's Rails 6. This will work for Rails that has Webpacker installed. So it could be 5.2 and so on, as long as you have Webpacker and ActiveStorage. Now we're going to run Rails ActiveStorage install to get the migrations for ActiveStorage. And then afterwards, we want to run yarn add @uppy/core. That's the main library that has all of the core features and functionality of Uppy. We want the dashboard from Uppy as well, so we're going to grab that. And then we want to grab the URL for this GitHub repository for Uppy ActiveStorage Upload. And we're going to add .git to it so that yarn can add it from the Git repo on GitHub. So this will go and install all those modules, and then we can create a scaffold for a resource that we want to upload images for. So let's generate a scaffold for, say, a photo model, and we'll add an image ActiveStorage upload for that. So let's go ahead and run Rails DB migrate to get all those migrations run, and then we can open up our code base to get everything set up. Now, first things first, we want to go to our photo.rb, and then has one attached image. That will set up ActiveStorage. You could use has many attached if you want to as well. All this stuff will be modifiable, so you can add multiple file uploads too if you wanted to do that. So we're going to use this example just for a single file upload, but that is just fine. So what we'll do here is we'll say params require photo, and we will permit the image attribute, and that will be what we submit in our form. Speaking of our form, let's go to photos form and add a form group here. Let's copy that and add our field here. So this is what we're going to do for our field here. So rather than doing a regular file field to have the browser select a file, let's add a label for our image, and then let's add a div here and say if photo.image.attached, let's display a preview. So we'll say image tag at photo.image, and we want our width here to be 280 pixels wide by default, because that's the default thumbnail preview width of Uppy previews. And so that will match the exact same size. Let's add a data behavior to this, and we'll call it Uppy preview. And that way we can grab this image tag as necessary to actually replace that image if you want to replace it when you're editing this form. And then we'll do the same sort of thing when you're creating a new photo as well. We'll have an image with an empty source, which we'll go update in just a bit. And then we'll have an empty alt tag, and we'll also add data behavior as Uppy preview for this one as well. So then we can close that, and we can close our div here, and then we can add a link to upload a new photo instead of a file field. So we'll link this nowhere, but what we will do is say data behavior is Uppy trigger, and that we will look for in the JavaScript so that when you click on this link, we will be able to trigger Uppy. Now, we want to scope all of this stuff with data Uppy up here in this div that wraps all of that. That's going to say, when you upload a file, we know exactly which image tag to put the preview in. And if you wanted to have two file fields that also use Uppy, you can have different instances for those. So you'll have to probably make some modifications if you want to have multiple Uppy instances in the same form or on the same page. But for the most part, we're going to have this pretty close to being functional for that. Now, the one thing we want to do here is set the value of data Uppy to photo image. So if we set this up, this is the actual name of what we want to submit in our params that would match the file field name. And so we're going to use this so that Uppy can actually grab that and then add that to our form when it finishes uploading the file. So the other thing we need to do in our HTML is we need to go to our head tag in our layout, and we want to add a special tag in here that's a meta tag with the name of direct upload URL, and the content of this will be the Rails direct uploads path, and that's going to allow us to have an easy place to reference that URL so that Uppy can grab that and then upload files to that. The other thing we want to do here is copy the JavaScript pack tag and make sure that we have the style sheet pack tag as well, because we're going to add the Uppy CSS into Webpacker so it'll compile it, and we're going to need to display that on the page, otherwise Uppy won't look like Uppy. So now that all of that is set up, we have most of our HTML ready to go, so we can go build our code for our JavaScript. So inside of our application.js pack JavaScript file, we can go and start initializing Uppy. So to set up Uppy, we need to actually grab Uppy and assign it to a constant here. So we're going to require @uppy/core. We want to also grab the dashboard from its package. So we'll require @uppy/dashboard. And then we're also going to require the ActiveStorage upload, which will require from @exit3 Uppy ActiveStorage upload. So that's going to be the three required modules that we're going to have here. All of our Rails ActiveStorage stuff and whatever is already set up. You can ignore the Bootstrap things here that are just Bootstrap specific because Jumpstart sets up Bootstrap for us automatically. And what we need to do next is actually require @uppy/core/dis/style.css. So this is going to include the Uppy styles, and then we're going to also include the dashboard styles, and those are going to be what will show up in that style sheet pack tag when ActiveStorage compiles everything. So now we need to set up an add event listener for turbolinks load, and I'll do this one separate from the Bootstrap stuff that we have above, but you could put this in together. We need to have turbolinks listeners so that we can set up Uppy when we navigate to that page. So here we'll say document.query selector all, so we can grab all of the Uppy elements on the page in case there were multiple, and then we'll grab for each of those the element we will pass into the setup Uppy method that we'll create right now. So this will go and initialize Uppy for each one of those that we have on the page. So we'll have setup Uppy, which will take that element, and then we're going to set up a few things. So we'll let the trigger variable equal to element.query selector. Data behavior equals Uppy trigger, and we'll use double quotes inside on this one, and that will grab that item for us. We'll also look for the form in case we want to submit the form or whatever when the files are uploaded. So we'll say closest form. Then we will grab the direct upload URL from document.query selector meta tag where the name is direct upload URL. And then we'll get attribute for content, so we can get the direct upload URL string out of the head tag. Then we're also gonna set the field name variable equal to element.dataset.uppy, which is that photo square bracket image square bracket that we had before, so we know which field to submit that in over to Rails. So then the next step that we want to do is add an event listener to the trigger or the click event on our trigger. So this is going to basically say, well, when you click that link, we want to prevent default. So we don't want it to do a navigation with turbolinks or with the browser because it's a link. We don't want it to do anything. Instead, we want to cancel it and then run the rest of this code, which will actually go ahead and set up Uppy. So let's say Uppy equals Uppy, and we'll call the constructor for Uppy. So we'll initialize it. We'll say auto proceed is true. So whenever you upload a file, it will automatically upload it. So we'll choose a file by default and it won't upload it immediately. If you do auto proceed, it will immediately trigger the upload. Then we can allow multiple uploads as false because we only want one for this example. You could leave this as true, which I believe is the default. And then one really handy option here is setting the logger to uppy.debug logger. That's going to be very handy in case you make any typos and your functions aren't doing what you thought they were going to do. So then we'll set up the ActiveStorage upload plugin. And the only thing we need to pass in for this is direct upload URL to the direct upload URL that we found up above on line 36. Then uppy.use dashboard. We can configure the dashboard. You can add in any plugins you want here, but the main things we care about are setting the trigger element to the trigger that we found. And we want to close after finish is true. So basically whenever the upload finishes, we'll just close the modal, and we're gonna use the dashboard as a modal rather than the inline example that I showed you before. So then all of this stuff is going to work, hopefully, and then we can use the complete event to look for the results whenever they are finished uploading. So let's just console.log result out into the JavaScript console so you can see what happens. So with all of that said, now we can open that up in your browser and see how it works. So here I pulled this up in the browser. If we click upload, we should get Uppy popping up as a modal. We can browse and grab an image to upload it. It will automatically upload it and then close it whenever it's done. Now, we don't see anything on the page, and this is where we need to add some things to that complete callback. But for now, it's just going to print out the upload results. So if we have items in the successful array, we know then that we had successful uploads, but we might also have failed uploads. So some of them might upload correctly, some of them might fail, and they're in the associated arrays. Now we need to loop through the successful ones, and we probably need to update that preview so you can actually see which one you selected. So that's what we're gonna do now. So let's go ahead and go to our result on complete, and we need to basically go through here and do a couple of things. So we'll say result successful dot for each file. We'll do a few things. So we're gonna append the uploaded file to the element, and we're gonna pass in the file and the field name. And so what we'll do in this function is append uploaded file will receive the element, the file, and the field name. And this is going to basically insert hidden field into that section of the form where we are currently using that Uppy instance. So then this is going to basically set up a hidden field, which is document.create element input, and we'll have to set hidden field.set attribute type is hidden. Then hidden field set attribute. We'll do this like 3 more times. So we'll copy paste that, and we'll say that name is going to be the field name. Then we will have the data pending upload attribute, just so that we can have a reference to that. So if we ever cancel and re-upload a different file, we can replace this preview and remove this file here. And then for our value for this, we want it to be file.response.signedID. Now this is sort of a special variable here. So when we get our object for the upload, you get a bunch of information about it, like the file name, the extension, the type, and metadata, and so on. But this response is actually the response from Rails. So from ActiveStorage, it gives you the signed ID, the attachable SGID if you want to embed this into action text, and so on. So it gives us a lot of information, but that signed ID is what we need to actually submit to Rails as the value for the image, so that it can actually connect the two with that signed ID. Now this preview is also useful for us to update that image that is currently invisible because we don't have a source on it. We can go change the source to this preview image and display that there. So that's the next thing we want to do as well after we append this. So our element here, we want to append child hidden field, and that should take care of inserting that hidden field onto the page. Now we want to set the preview as well, like I mentioned. So we'll take the element and the file for that method or that function. We'll say set preview, element, and the file. And inside of here, we want to basically say if there is the preview element, so element query selector data behavior equals Uppy preview. If preview is present and not null or something, we can say preview.source equals file.preview. So now if we were to refresh our page and recompile our JavaScript, we can open up the console and make sure we didn't make any typos or whatever. We can upload a file and choose, say, the community one. And here we got for each is undefined in one of our lines here. So let's go take a look at that. We have for each being called in a couple places. So that one we've already got running. We have .successful spelled wrong. So if we fix that, we should see that that works. And this is coming from that debug logger that Uppy has. Otherwise, if you made a typo or something like that, you would not see any of those things, which can be kind of bad. So here we have it set up so that you can see the preview now. It's replaced that image source with the blob, and it's also inserted this hidden field with the signed ID. Now, if we weren't going to create this photo and change our minds, we need to actually reset Uppy. It's going to remember by default what was uploaded previously, and there's no way to actually undo this. So we need to actually reset Uppy whenever it's completed. So the way we can do that is we can have outside of our processing of these files, we'll say uppy.reset on complete. And then the other thing we probably want to do here is that inside of our element, we want to query selector all for any of those data pending upload hidden fields, and we want to remove those. So if we find any of those, we'll take that element and we'll say element.parentNode.remove child element. So that's going to clean up any previous files that we've chosen and replace that with the new one. So we'll walk through that step right now. So let's go choose a file here. So we'll say community again. So we'll upload it and put it in our form, but it's still pending. We have this data pending upload is true here. And if we were to upload a different image, like this content icon, it will replace this on the page with the other one and replace the image source and all of that. So we should always have one hidden field if we've chosen a photo. So now we can create that photo and everything is working, but we don't have it being displayed on the photo show page. So here we could say, let's clear this out and say if at photo.image.attached image tag at photo.image and close that out. So there we see our image that we uploaded, and we can edit, and we see it in the preview because that's the existing one that we already have. And if we upload a replacement like that community icon, we're going to upload photo and we see that gets changed. So this approach to integrating Uppy works really well if you want to have a similar functionality to the way that the browser works with the file field. When you click save or update your record, like update photo, it will go and actually save the attachment to your record, and all of that will be good. Now, the one downside to this is that if the user uploads a photo and decides not to finish saving, that will kind of orphan that upload because it's already been uploaded and that record is now not attached to anything because it didn't get saved. And that is something you have to set up in your storage, like on Amazon S3. You can have the cache folder for your uploads actually delete files if they're 7 days old or whatever, because they're not going to be used and they're orphan files. So that's something to keep in mind. This works really, really well for a lot of use cases, but there's other times where you might want to try and avoid orphan files as much as possible, in which case you have to have the record already ready. And that's like in the case where you have Twitter creates an account for you and they have a default avatar and you can upload a replacement. That way they can always attach the new avatar to your database record and never have orphan files. So if you want to do that with Uppy instead, you can edit this on complete and get rid of our preview and our temporary hidden field for those. And instead you could call rails.ajax and submit a request through Ajax to actually go and update the record immediately. So that will help reduce orphan files, but it requires you to have a record already ready, like a user record, or in our case, you would have to have a photo record already before you can upload an image to it, which might be a little weird. You probably want to do that all at the same time. So it depends on the use case that you need, but as you can tell here, it's really easy to do any of this with Uppy, and I'm going to leave this Rails Ajax example here, or use a preview. So this is a great solution, and Uppy is a fantastic library for JavaScript file uploads. There's a ton you can do with it. It's really easy to write plugins and add new features to it. So I definitely recommend it for use with ActiveStorage, Shrine, whatever you might want to use for your file uploads. It is a really good front end for all of that. So that is it for this episode. If you guys have any questions, let me know in the comments below, and I'll talk to you in the next episode. Peace.